On Thursday, September 21, 2006, the following alert was broadcast on local TVs in Bloomington, Indiana.
We interrupt this program for an important message on behalf of the SCP Foundation. At approximately 6:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Site-81 reported that SCP-365 was not found in its cell, and it is unknown its whereabouts. While SCP-365 is not dangerous on its own, we advise residents within 11 miles of Site-81 to not enter any bodies of water that you can be fully submerged in, until further notice. Stay tuned for future updates.
The broadcast concerned and confused many Bloomington residents. During this time, little was known about the SCP Foundation as it was often considered taboo to speak about. Rumors and conspiracy theories were often shared in private amongst the local population. But many people didn't pay much attention to the organization. Around 5 hours later, another alert was broadcast.
This program is being interrupted at the request of the SCP Foundation. The SCP Foundation has received numerous questions and concerns regarding the containment breach of SCP-365, the main question being, what is SCP-365? SCP-365 is a green pool flotation device, are also referred to as a pool noodle, which on its own shows no unusual properties, but when placed into a body of water it prevents any subject from exiting, resulting in them drowning. If you spot SCP-365 in any body of water, do not enter, as it will result in drowning if no one is around to remove SCP-365 from the water. Instead, contact SCP Site-81 immediately. Stay tuned for more information as it becomes available.
This alert left far more questions than answers. Many weren't sure if this was a hoax or some kind of practical joke, but things took a turn for the worst. At 6:09 p.m. the same day, this alert was aired on behalf of the local police department.
We interrupt this program for a civil danger emergency. At approximately 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, local authorities discovered the bodies of 93 poolgoers at the local city pool. After investigation by police and the SCP Foundation, the deaths are believed to be the result of SCP-365. Security footage from outside the scene captured a suspect fleeing with the SCP. If you spot anyone with the SCP, contact local authorities immediately.
Turns out the SCP was used by someone to drown 93 people at the local pool. Eyewitnesses reported that bystanders outside the pool tried to help people out of the pool but they failed. Security footage captured someone leaving the scene with a pool noodle very similar to the SCP. Police and investigators have been searching for the aforementioned person, but never found a trace of them. The following day the SCP Foundation broadcasted this odd alert.
We interrupt this program for an important message on behalf of the SCP Foundation. The SCP Foundation would like to report that, redacted, has been properly contained back at our facility. Investigation is still ongoing as to who removed, redacted, from containment. If you have any information regarding the incident, despite what you may have heard, do not contact local authorities or any other organization. Rather contact us directly at 951-572-2602. We apologize for the deaths and panic that this incident may or may not have caused, but rest assured it will not happen again, hopefully. As always, we are the SCP Foundation, where our motto is, secure, contain, protect. Also, despite any rumors, this was not a test of redacted on the public. Our foundation policy prohibits any test on any unwitting participants. Have a nice day.
This broadcast led many to believe that the person who was responsible for the deaths of the pool-goers was actually some sort of employee working for the SCP Foundation and that the SCP Foundation were running tests on the public. Ever since this incident took place, many people tried to speak out against the SCP Foundation, but the most notable people who did, either went missing, or were found dead from "suicide." The SCP Foundation has tried its hardest to cover the incident up to the best of their ability, and so far it's been working, as many people nowadays don't even recall the incident.